What does it mean? All this research that's out in the universe today, trying to understand it and what it all means. Do you ever wonder, like you're talking to a friend and they're like, I read this research article, and you're like, oh, well, I heard this other thing, and it seemed like a totally different interpretation. What does it mean? What does all this research mean? Well, I'm Dr. Amy with Physical Therapy for Everybody. This is not my usual Facebook Live time, so if you're hopefully you'll catch up with this, but this just caught me today and I wanted to share it with you. So I was just doing some research reading, my local JOSPT, Journal of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy. This one's from July. I'm a little bit behind on my reading. And there's a research report here that has, they always put these nice little summaries in the bottom here, right? And let's be honest, I usually just read the summary until something catches my eye like this. And when something catches my eye like this, I definitely have to read it further. So the title of this particular research report is Knee Injuries in Normal Weight, Overweight, and Obese Runners. Does Body Mass Index Matter? Now, this is a really important question for everybody, really, because if you're interested in running, knee injuries are probably the biggest thing that you're actually worried about. So there has been a myth, really, in the running community for a long time and in the medical community for a long time that is based on research that running increases arthritis in your knees. I've had many people tell me, oh, I would like to run, but I have arthritis in my knees, and the doctor says that running will make it worse. That myth has since been debunked with other research that was higher quality, but it's something that still persists. You can still hear about it in the medical community. Even with good, solid research, it takes about 20 years for that information to get all the way through the community. So, because I am aware of the old research and the new research, this one was pretty interesting to me, because is there any chance that if you're overweight or obese, it could increase your risk of knee injuries? Different than arthritis, but curious about that with knee injuries. So I was really interested to read this article, and in the little box, the little conclusion says overweight and obese runners had a lower proportion of running-related knee injuries than normal weight runners. So what does that mean? It means if you're overweight or obese, you have less chance of a knee injury with running, which is not probably what you would expect. It's definitely not what I expected. So when I read something like that, that's not what I expected, I actually go and read the whole article then, okay? So I'm looking through this article. So my first question is, how many people were involved in this study? Because if it's like 3 people, there was one normal weight, one overweight, and one obese, well, that's not a very great study because it's only 3 people, right? But this study actually had a large number of people. So what they actually did with this particular study is there was actually 4 studies that were done, and they were at the out of the university in Denmark, and they actually combined the information from these 4 studies in order to come up with this research right here. So let me find the number for you guys. It was quite a lot though. Here we go. So there was a total included in the 4 studies that they included in this study right here. There was actually 2,612 runners included. And so there was a total of 577, or 22%, that had a running related injury. Okay, so we're looking at the research itself now. 2,600 runners is a pretty good group of people. Like that feels pretty substantial. That feels like something that would actually stand up, and that actually makes sense. So going on and reading further, there's a discussion section, and so they talk about all of their results. So there's a results section, and it's all the numbers and stuff like that, and how they got the numbers and all that stuff. But there's actually a discussion section, And in there, you'll find the information that, yes, indeed, overweight and obese runners did have a lower incident of knee injuries with running. However, overweight and obese runners had a higher proportion of lower leg running related injuries. So you're thinking maybe, something obviously below the knee. So maybe shin splints, maybe an ankle sprain, maybe something like that, but it's something that happened below the knee. Well, that's a little bit different than what we thought at the beginning, at least what I thought at the beginning. So at the beginning, I was thinking, hey, look, if you're overweight or obese, according to this study, you have a lower incident of knee-related injuries, which is true. But what's also true is that if you're overweight or obese and you start running, you have a higher risk of a lower leg injury. So something happening in your calf or below, which is good information to have. So my point in this is not even really to talk about running or weight, but it's to talk about how to actually read and analyze the research, because I think it's really important as more and more of this is becoming available. We hear about it in the mainstream media. We have Google access at our fingertips, so we can search for things. We can see things on the news to understand how to discern some of that research so that we can make better educated decisions for ourselves. So what I usually look at first is how many people were included in the study. The larger the number of people included in the study, the better, more accurate you can feel like the results are pertaining to you. If it's a really small study, there's only like 6 people involved in it, and especially if it occurred like in the U.S., well, 6 people out of the entire population in the U.S., is that really applicable to you? It's a little bit harder to tell. Maybe it's a good initial study, and hopefully that they can repeat it with a larger group of people so that way we can feel more confident sharing those results with each other. But in this one, 2,600 is a decent sized group of people, but we needed to read further on to understand that, yes, indeed, there is a lower risk of knee injury, but an increased risk or a higher risk of lower leg injury. So yes, you can expect that your knees will be okay, but your lower legs might not be so great, right? Then again, 22% of the people included in the study had some form of injury. So 1 in 4, basically, or 1 in 5, kind of depending on how you want to swing that statistic. So in general, from this particular study alone, I would say if you want to start a running program and you're overweight and obese, you definitely want to put in some structure around it to support you so you'll be as successful as possible. But I would say there's no reason not to start running based on the results of the study. But you got to look at the whole thing, right? We can't just read one line and spread that all over the interweb and tell everybody about it. It's important to read the entire thing and to be able to look at the whole study and everything that was reported. So I hope that this helps. I hope that as you're reading research or talking about research, this will give you a couple things to look at to understand a little bit more about what that research means and how you might be able to apply it to your life. So if you ever read anything and you're like, hey, I'm wondering how to discern this, I'm wondering if this is applicable to me, feel free to give us a call. I love doing research. I love reading research and dissecting it and understanding if it's applicable or not. So I'm always happy to talk to you and help you figure out if it's applicable to you. So if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, 425-658-4944, or you can shoot me an email. It's Dr. Amy, D-R-A-M-Y, at PT, the number 4, EB, B as in boy, .com. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.